It's a pleasure to welcome you to this 20-minute webinar on the Global Dairy Congress coming up on the 27th to 29th of June in London, and on global dairy trends and innovation. My name is Richard Hall, and I'm joined by Esther Renfrew.
Hello.
I'll start briefly by introducing the Congress. Esther will then comment on some key market developments, and we'll then open up to questions. Please do submit your questions as we speak. It's good to see that there are quite a number of familiar friends online, and quite a few new faces as well, so welcome to you all. We're holding the 10th Global Dairy Congress this June in London. Normally we have about 150 delegates each year from leading global and regional producers. I think we've already got about 90 bookings for this event, and a very wide representation of countries attend. This year's event is kindly sponsored by Bericap, and there are other companies that will be exhibiting. The full programme and online booking details are available at the zenithinternational.com website. Previous congresses have taken place all around Europe, but never in London, and so this year, which is the 10th for the Congress and the 25th anniversary of Zenith, that's where we are, in London. In terms of the features of the event, the theme is delivering the promise of dairy. The programme includes some market insight briefings, a focus on entrepreneurship and investment. There's a dairy tour of the new Arla Aylesbury operations, which we think is quite a coup, which should be fantastic. There are also the World Dairy Innovation Awards, as well as extensive networking opportunities. Just to give more detail on the programme, there are 3 market insight briefings after the Arla tour on the first day. On the 28th in the morning, we've got a regional market overview, as well as some global leadership perspectives. We move on to sustaining market growth and society issues. On the final day, the 29th, we'll be looking at innovation, entrepreneurship, an entrepreneur shootout, and we'll close with a roundtable discussion on some of the social issues affecting the industry. We've got a really top-level lineup of speakers: global producers Arla, Dairy Farmers of America, Glanbia, Lactalis, Mengniu and Yili, as well as the head of Coke's Fairlife, a dairy in Iraq, and others from North America to New Zealand, with Japan and Vietnam in between. So that's the event, and on the last slide at the end, you'll see there's a discount for attending. I can't believe why we're offering it, but for some extraordinary reason we seem to be being very generous to you, and hope that if you haven't booked, you will do so. I'm going to hand over to Esther now.
Right, thank you, Richard. So I'm Esther, I'm the Market Intelligence Director here, and I'm just going to give some overviews as to trends and innovation in the dairy sector. So first of all, I wanted to start with milk consumption in the context of the other beverages. So here's a look of the last 10 years. And in red, we've got the soft drinks category. That includes water, carbonated soft drinks, juices, sports drinks, and energy drinks. Just to be very clear, this is a study for global consumption by consumers in 72 countries globally. So you can see the soft drinks category is the top first most important one, and it's really water, bottled water, that is driving that growth that you can see over the last 10 years. Hot beverages in blue, that includes teas and coffees as well as other hot beverages. Then alcohol is in purple, just a slightly over milk consumption, which is rather similar in terms of its size and magnitude. So in green, that's milk consumption. That represents both fluid milk, both white and flavoured. So out of these 4 categories, milk is 4th and represents about a quarter of that of soft drinks. Milk reached 251 billion litres of consumption in 2015, 93% of which is plain and 7% is flavoured. The main region where we're seeing consumption of milk is Asia Pacific, which represents nearly, over 50% share in volume. So let's look at the last 5 years in a bit more detail, taking out the blip that was 2008 and 2009, and look at where additional volume was added. As I mentioned, bottled water is a very fast-growing category, and in absolute volume terms, bottled water has added nearly 100 billion litres globally in these 72 countries over the last 5 years, and that's incredibly impressive. This is followed by tea, so hot tea, and then milk is in the third position. So it's good news for the milk category. That's an extra 19 billion litres of milk consumed over the last 5 years. As I mentioned, there's some other categories there. We've got coffee and beer and carbonates and so forth. So milk in a very good position there. However, if we look at milk's share of throat in those 72 countries, again comparing 2010 and 2015, you can see that milk, whilst it's growing in percentage terms and also in absolute volume terms, its share of throat is declining slightly. So back in 2010, it accounted for 13%. Now in 2015, it's accounting for 12%, so 1% point difference. Carbonates has been the category the most under pressure. As we know, consumers are looking for more healthy alternatives, moving away from sugar-based beverages, so that's lost 2 percentage points. But the winner here, unsurprisingly, based on the other slides, is bottled water from 14% to 17%. So we can see that milk is actually losing out in terms of its position in terms of share of throat. We did an in-depth study towards the last part of last year, in 2015, on the aseptic packaging report. I'll be presenting more detail at the Congress in June, but this report covered the aseptic market for milk and juices and baby food, tomatoes and so forth. It covered 43 countries, and here we've got the short-life chilled market and the long-life ambient. And I wanted to show, in essence, the short-life chilled, which is fresh pasteurised milk and ESL, accounts for 2/3 of the market globally. And the long-life ambient, so that's both aseptically UHT milk and sterilised milk, that's around 1/3. That said, it's actually the aseptic and the ambient market that's growing faster than the chilled market. So going forward, the long-life ambient market is growing on average around 3.4% a year, whilst the fresh milk market's growing by 1.9% per year. Where's that growth coming from? Predominantly China and Brazil, but also Mexico, the Philippines and Pakistan. As I said, I'll be going through more detail in June on those, in more detail on that data. So I thought it'd be quite good to have a look at some of the recent innovations to give you a bit of a flavour as to what's happening here. So innovation is very much widespread within the dairy industry, as manufacturers are trying to capture market share through offering added value. We know that dairy is inherently functional and has some very good properties, but what's happening in terms of the landscape shows a bit of the trends that we're seeing in the market. So I've picked 3 areas. I've picked milk, cheese and yogurt to look at, and I've also tried to look at some of the themes across those categories. So let's look first of all at one of those. So this is milk with added protein. So we know that protein is a very big buzzword in the industry, and here we've got some examples. And it's really for consumers looking for a post-recovery solution and move away from some of the more artificial beverages, such as the sports and energy drinks, either with too much caffeine or sugar or deemed too expensive. And some of these products here that I'm going to show you that have been launched recently are capturing some of that in here. So Arla here, this is one in Denmark that was launched. This is for people who are weakened or elderly consumers lacking appetite, and this has got a strong dose of protein in here. From Sweden, we've got another one that's with 5 grams of protein. This is from the USA. Again, this is 30 grams of protein per bottle. Mars Refuel has launched a protein-enriched beverage with 22 grams of protein, and this is from Spain. This is very much designed as a breakfast time consumption, aiding muscle repair and also setting you up for the rest of the day. Other areas we're seeing is vitamin and mineral enriched products for children. Here from Vietnam, this has got added vitamin A, omega-3, vitamin Bs and calcium. Here from Mexico, this is the first of its kind. It's an alternative to powdered formula and contains protein, calcium, omega-3, prebiotics, vitamin and minerals. From Arla, this is in the UK, this is the Big Milk, which contains vitamin A, D, calcium and iron, and that's designed for children 1 to 5 years old. From Spain, this one has 50% of your recommended daily amount of calcium, as well as some soluble fibre and vitamins and minerals. And finally, in the USA here, Happy Child Super Nutrition Shakes, which is organic milkshake, 3 grams of fibre and 15 minerals and vitamins. Other areas that we're seeing in terms of innovation, flavours. This one here is a jelly bean flavour. This one's got strawberry pavlova flavour with the meringue pieces inside. This one here comes in a variety of different flavours: black cherry, blue moon, cotton candy and grape. We've got Nesquik Girl Scout, which comes in caramel, coconut and thin mints. Another one in the USA with Halloween orange cream. And finally, in the UK, salted caramel. We know that salted caramel has been very popular. We're now seeing it in the milk aisle. In cheese, we've also seen lots of innovation in the market. It's a highly fragmented market, as we know, and so here's some innovation, again, crossing some of the categories that we've seen just a moment ago. This is all about snacking. This is the Laughing Cow, very much looking at portion control and calories. So they advertise it's 14 calories per cube. This is a mozzarella in the US, and it's wrapped in meat: salami, pepperoni, prosecco ham. Cathedral City selections in the UK, these are portion-sized cheddars. And then for children in China, Mexico and the USA, the Chinese one is banana flavoured, the US one is with breadsticks, and the Mexican one is with breadsticks, and the Horizon Organics is with cheddar cheese in the shape of stars. Then with added protein, we talked about it in milk, and we have Philadelphia with dual strength protein offering cream cheese, and that's got 4 grams of protein. And then here in Australia with Kraft again, we've got higher protein cheese with 9.8 grams of protein. Flavours. So cheese hasn't escaped the flavour innovation. This one here in Germany has got curry, tomato and green pepper. In the US we've got citrus and ginger. Here we've got jalapeno, and in the US with bacon. And then in Canada we've got raspberry goat cheese, and then alouette from Bon Grain, zesty ginger and spring onions. You can see some wide variety of flavours in the cheese aisle. Protein in yogurt. Now we know that protein has a significant amount of protein in it already, and actually consumers are understanding that message. However, we have certain yogurts that are playing very strongly on that message, such as Arla here with their protein strawberry yogurt, and also with the Yoplait and their Greek yogurt here. There are plenty more examples here, but time's running out to show all the different varieties that we have in the yogurt category. For children, you can see the number of products targeted for children, and particularly the packaging is one that has excelled as something exciting and interesting for the children. So lots of pouches and squeezable tubes in a way of getting yogurt consumption up and calcium for strong bones. So I'd like to finish in terms of future opportunities. We know that dairy consumption will grow. That's actually going to be quite a demand in terms of meeting some of that demand, mainly because of where that demand is coming from. It's coming from countries and regions where milk production isn't so strong, and therefore there needs to be investment in that category. And then traditional domestic industry, generally focused on the home markets, and now having to look further afield. We know that there are challenges there in terms of what's been happening in Russia and also the slowing down in China, but there's also opportunities in terms of increasing globalization. I've picked out 3 areas in terms of innovation that we've seen. So child-oriented products, very key, protein-enriched dairy products, and some exciting and unusual flavours, including savoury flavours in the dairy aisle. Innovation in the industry has kept the market relevant to today's consumers who are looking for variety, convenience and added value. And with that, I'd like to say thank you very much for listening, and if you've got any questions, please do keep them coming through.
Thanks very much, Esther. We've got a few questions coming already, but do send them through. We've not got very long, but you're welcome to ask. First question is about non-dairy dairy, which you didn't cover. Anything about that? Is that growing faster? Has that got more appeal?
consumers are becoming very much more aware of non-dairy products, so dairy or lactose. There's two different types of products. So lactose-free, so if you've got a lactose intolerance, having a milk that is lactose-free, and we've seen plenty of innovation over the last 5 or so years in that category. And then also the competition from soy-based or rice or other grains that we're seeing in the market. So without a doubt, consumers are becoming more informed and influenced by different types of media that are encouraging some of consumption and moving away from the category into non-dairy. So that's a risk for the dairy industry as to how to educate the consumer about the goodness and naturalness of dairy products.
Thank you. Question about sugar. Could milk become subject to the same pressures as other sugar-containing products?
We've seen the dairy industry fight more on the fat side than on the sugar side, but undoubtedly some of the flavoured milks, for example, have a very high level of sugar. In the UK, for example, the sugar tax that they're proposing exempts dairy products, but that's something that the industry needs to be aware of in terms of how much sugar is in the product, also naturally within dairy products.
I noticed the Thailand tax proposals include sour milk and soy milk alongside some soft drinks and teas and other products and juice. But some of these tax proposals are very bizarre. Expectations for infant formula in the near future?
Yeah, very interesting. The infant formula, in fact, the day after the Global Dairy Congress, we've got a day on early nutrition, which will include the infant formula market. So we know that there's, in particular, demand from China has been very strong. It has changed lately, but then we also know that the one-child policy has changed, and that will help invigorate the market. Without a doubt, that market is incredibly consolidated, but there are opportunities there.
Generally growing faster than many other dairy sectors, isn't it? 7–8%, is that still the case?
That's correct, more so on the value side than on the volume side.
Right, okay. Trends about replacement of dairy proteins by plant proteins in yogurt. Ooh.
Yes, no, that's very interesting. Definitely protein is a buzzword, and we know that dairy's got a very strong positioning there, but we've also seen very strong activity in terms of plant-based protein. You just need to look on the dairy aisle, or the chilled aisle, should I say, to see where some of the products are being replaced and where you're seeing the opportunity there in terms of replacement. Whether that's an advantage or not for the consumer, that's perhaps one that they have to decide for themselves. But whether the dairy industry fights against that or embraces it is also an interesting argument.
Next question is about the role of dairy in personalised nutrition and functionality. Is that something that is going to gain ground over the next few years?
Personalised nutrition is a very hot topic. People want something that is specific to them, and we've seen that particularly in the soft drinks industry, the likes of Coca-Cola, who have done share a Coke with your name on the bottle and so forth. That's been very much well received. The only areas that I've really seen is in terms of the liquid water enhancers, where you can enhance some of the milks, where you can add a bit of your personal side, but at the moment that's something that perhaps could grow. Caps and closures are another area that are possibilities where you release perhaps some of the ingredients into your beverage, but that's fairly niche at the moment. And
on the nutrition side, is it all protein, or are there other aspects of functionality that are gaining ground?
Protein is interesting because clearly it's a hot topic across lots of both beverage and food categories, but in reality, actually, we're probably consuming enough protein. So I don't know how long that will last for, but it's certainly well established and growing. There are other areas, like vitamin D, for example, deficiency, something that's much talked about at the moment, and that's something that will be, I think, more prevalent in the near future.
Last question about milk speeding up or slowing down.
Milk speeding up?
In terms of the market?
It's speeding up in certain areas and slowing down in others.
So, is it positive? Because prices are very weak, aren't they?
Yeah, If you look historically at the dairy market, you get these peaks and troughs. At the moment, we're in this difficult situation whereby the EU is producing more milk, Russia's stopped importing from many countries, and demand slowing down from China. So prices are at a fairly low position, but that will recover with time. So it's a matter of waiting a little bit until things recover.
Well, everything is a matter of time, and we've run out of it. The last slide does highlight some discounts for both the Dairy Congress and our innovation reports. We've also got the Early Nutrition Conference on the 30th of June after the Congress. We'll hope to see lots of you there, and thank you very much for joining us. We'll send you links to the slides, and I think that we've got a recording that you can take if you want as well. So thanks for joining us, and hope to see you in London in June at the Congress.
Thank you.